Right now, somewhere in your family's past, probably sitting in a dusty photograph your grandmother kept, there's someone who got paid actual money to shoot dried peas at strangers' windows before sunrise. Someone else in your family tree guarded public toilets like they were Fort Knox, charging a penny for the privilege of entry. And I'd bet real money that at least one of your ancestors got professionally kissed by a man covered head to toe in chimney soot. These weren't side hustles or weekend gigs. These were legitimate careers that fed families, built communities, and shaped the Britain your grandparents grew up in. Here's what these jobs actually looked like from the inside. So yeah, if these stories help you drift off, hit subscribe. I'm always curious about who's listening and from where. Drop your city and what time it is in the comments. I was reading through them last week and someone from Auckland said it was already tomorrow there. Still can't quite wrap my head around that one. All right, we're heading back to industrial Britain tonight. But before we go anywhere, get yourself comfortable first. I mean, actually comfortable. Pillows sorted. Blanket situation handled. Good. Because where we're going, you're definitely going to want to be settled in. Your eyes open to darkness. Complete darkness. The kind of black that presses against your face like a wool blanket soaked in coal smoke. For a moment you don't know where you are. Then the cold hits you. It's seeping through the thin walls of your terraced house in Manchester, creeping under the door, settling into your bones like it's got nowhere else to be. And then you hear it. Tap, tap, tap. Something's hitting your window. 3 sharp sounds cutting through the silence of 2:30 in the morning. You know what this is. You've been hearing it every morning for years. It's Mary Waters with her bamboo pole, and if you don't get your face to that window in the next few seconds, she'll keep tapping until you do. You drag yourself out of bed. The floorboards are ice against your bare feet. You shuffle to the window and press your palm against the glass, letting her see the movement through the thin curtains. That's the signal. That's all she needs. By the time you've taken your hand away, she's already moving on to the next house, her footsteps fading into the darkness. Mary's been doing this for 30 years now. 30 years of waking at 2 in the morning. 30 years of walking these same cobblestone streets in the pitch black, in the pouring rain, in the bone-cracking cold that settles into northern England like it's got a personal vendetta. She's raised her son on this work, paid for his education, supported her husband when his back gave out and he couldn't work anymore, all by tapping on windows in the dark. She's a knocker-upper. That's actually what they called themselves. I know how that sounds to American ears, but in Britain, knocking someone up just meant waking them. And for about 100 years, from the depths of the Industrial Revolution right through to the 1950s, knocker-uppers were absolutely essential to keeping the entire country running. You pull on your work clothes in the dark. There's no point lighting a candle. You've done this so many times, your hands know where everything is. Trousers first, still damp from yesterday because nothing ever fully dries in this weather. Then the shirt, rough against your skin. The boots that pinch your feet but you can't afford new ones. By 4:30 you need to be at the cotton mill or they dock your wages. By 4:31 you might as well not show up at all. This is why you pay Mary Waters her 3 pence a week. Not because you're lazy, because you're terrified. Missing a shift doesn't mean a slap on the wrist. It means money taken from your pay. Multiple late arrivals and you're out. No job, no income, no way to feed your family. In this era, before any meaningful welfare state, being fired means potential starvation. Real starvation. The kind where children die. So, yeah, 3 pence a week to ensure someone wakes you up. Worth every penny. Outside your window, Mary is still making her rounds. You can hear the faint tap, tap, tap from a few houses down as she works her way through the street. She's got 80 clients on her route, 80 different wake-up times, 80 different windows to tap in a specific order across maybe 2 square miles of tightly packed industrial housing. She keeps every single schedule in her head. No notebook, no written list that anyone knows about. Just decades of practice burned into her memory like grooves in a record. Some knocker-uppers don't use poles like Mary does. Some carry soft hammers that they throw at windows with practiced accuracy. Others have rattles or small drums they beat while standing in the street. And then there are the ones who use pea shooters. I'm not making this up. We have photographic evidence. There's a famous picture from 1931 showing a woman named Mary Smith in East London. She's got this long rubber tube raised to her lips, and she's firing dried peas at a bedroom window. That was her method. That was how she made her living. Shooting peas at strangers' windows in the dark before dawn. You step outside now, into that pre-dawn chill, and you're not alone. All down the street doors are opening. Other workers emerging from their houses, their breath making little clouds in the cold air. Nobody's talking much. It's too early for conversation, but there's a kind of solidarity in it. You're all in this together. You've all been knocked up by Mary or someone like her. You're all making your way to the same mills and factories, trying to keep your jobs, trying to keep your families fed. The trust in this system is wild when you think about it. No contracts, no formal arrangements beyond that weekly payment, just an understanding between working people that everyone has their part to play and everyone will do their job. Mary trusts you to pay her. You trust her to wake you. It's simple. It works. In the mining communities of County Durham, the system got even more organised. You'd have seen this if you lived there instead of here. The coal mines ran around the clock, different shifts starting at different times, and missing a shift underground wasn't just about lost wages. It could mean the difference between a mine running safely and a mine where something goes wrong because the crew is short-handed. So the collieries themselves employed knocker-uppers, official knocker-uppers, on the company payroll. And here's the brilliant part. The miners' houses had slate boards built right into their exterior walls, little chalkboards essentially mounted next to the front door. Each evening you'd step outside into the cool air, take a piece of chalk and write your shift time for the next morning on that slate. The colliery knocker-upper would walk his route, check each slate and knock up the houses accordingly. They called these knocky-up boards, or sometimes wake-up slates. The language was different then, more colourful somehow, more practical. And who woke up the knocker-uppers? That was the eternal question. There's a tongue twister that survived from this era. We had a knocker-up, and our knocker-up had a knocker-up. And our knocker-up's knocker-up didn't knock our knocker-up. So our knocker-up didn't knock us up. 'Cause he's not up. Usually it was night watchmen finishing their shifts, or people who just naturally couldn't sleep past 2 in the morning and figured they might as well get paid for their insomnia. Police constables sometimes moonlighted as knocker-uppers too. They'd finish their night patrol and, instead of heading home, they'd do a few rounds of window tapping for extra money. In London, there was a man named Charles Nelson who worked as a knocker-upper for 25 years in the East End. 25 years of pre-dawn patrols through some of the roughest neighbourhoods in the city. He woke up doctors and market traders and dock workers and anyone else who needed to be somewhere before the sun came up. His picture survives in the archives. Flat cap, weather-beaten face, eyes that have seen too many dark mornings to count. But every profession has its end, and for the knocker-uppers, it came quietly, one cheap alarm clock at a time. By the 1920s and 30s, affordable alarm clocks started appearing in British shops. They weren't perfect, they weren't always reliable, but they were there. And slowly, street by street, city by city, people stopped needing someone to tap on their windows. Why pay Mary Waters 3p a week when you could buy a clock that would last for years? Some knocker-uppers hung on longer than you'd expect. In smaller industrial towns, the profession survived into the 1970s. There's a story about an 84-year-old man who finally retired in 1960 from his knocking-up duties in a small town near Buckingham. When a reporter asked him what he planned to do with his retirement, he thought about it for a moment and said he might lie in bed until 6 in the morning for once. Think about that. A lifetime of waking before dawn, of walking dark streets, of tapping on windows, and his retirement fantasy was just sleeping until a perfectly normal hour. Right now, you're lying in your comfortable bed. Maybe you've got a phone beside you that'll buzz with 17 different alarms if you set them. Maybe you trust your body to wake up on its own. You'll never need a Mary Waters to tap on your window. You'll never know that specific mix of gratitude and annoyance when dried peas hit your bedroom glass at 2:30 in the morning. But she was real. They all were. Thousands of them, spread across Britain, keeping the country running one tapped window at a time. And as the grey light of dawn starts bleeding through the smoke over the industrial cities, as Mary Waters makes her way home and the knocker-uppers slip back to their beds, another sound is beginning. A different kind of symphony that will become one of the most nostalgic sounds in British memory. The gentle whine of an electric motor, the musical clink of glass bottles shifting in their crates, and somewhere in the distance, a man whistling. A man who's been doing this same route so long, he knows exactly which houses want milk today and which ones left notes asking for extra cream. The milkman is coming, and you're about to meet him. But before he arrives, let me take you somewhere else for a moment. Let me show you what it feels like to be on the other side of that bamboo pole. You're Mary Waters now. It's 2:15 in the morning and you've been awake for an hour already. Your husband is still asleep in the bed you've just left, his breathing heavy and laboured from the cough that never quite goes away. Your son is grown now, educated, working a respectable job in an office somewhere. You paid for that education. Every 3p you collected, every dark morning you walked, every window you tapped. It all went toward making sure he wouldn't have to do what you do. You pull on your coat. It's thin, patched in several places, but it's the warmest thing you own. Your boots are worn smooth on the soles, which actually helps on the cobblestones. Less chance of slipping. You've fallen before, in the ice, in the rain. You've sprained your ankle and still finished your rounds because 80 people were counting on you. 80 families needed to get to work on time. The bamboo pole leans against the wall by the door. 12 feet of flexible wood with a wire arrangement at the end. You've replaced the wire 3 times this year. The cold makes it brittle. You grab it now, feeling the familiar weight of it, the way it balances in your hand after 30 years of practice. Outside, the street is empty. The gas lamps have burned down to almost nothing. You can barely see the houses across the road. But you don't need to see them. You know them. You know every loose cobblestone, every gate that squeaks, every dog that barks if you walk too close to its territory. First stop, number 14, the Davies family. You raise your pole and tap the glass 3 times. Clean, sharp sounds that won't wake the neighbours but will definitely wake anyone behind that window. You wait. Count to 5 in your head. There. Movement behind the curtain. A hand pressed to the glass. You move on. Number 18, the Fletchers. Mrs. Fletcher takes longer to wake than her husband, so you give it an extra tap. 4 instead of 3. She's paying the same as everyone else, but you've learned over the years that some people need a little more encouragement. Number 22, the Harrison boys. 2 brothers, both working the early shift at the foundry. They share a room, so one knock wakes both of them. Efficient. You work your way down the street, then onto the next one, then the one after that. Your feet know the route so well that your mind can wander. You think about the money you'll collect this week, about whether your husband's cough is getting worse, about whether you should buy new boots or try to make these last another winter. The sky is starting to lighten when you finish. Not proper daylight yet, just that grey suggestion of it on the eastern horizon. You've been walking for 3 hours. Your arms ache from lifting the pole. Your feet are numb from the cold. But 80 people are awake now. 80 households are stirring. The factories will run on time today because of you. You head home. Your husband is still asleep. You take off your boots and crawl back into bed beside him, and you're unconscious within minutes. You'll wake around noon, eat something, rest, and then do it all again tomorrow. This was the life of a knocker-upper. This was the rhythm of it. Thousands of people across Britain moving through the darkness while everyone else slept, keeping the wheels of industry turning one tapped window at a time. And now, as you settle back into your own comfortable present, that other sound is growing louder. The sound that replaced the knocker-upper's tap. The sound that meant a new day was starting and the world was waking up properly. The milkman is here. His electric float is humming down your street, and if you listen closely you can hear the clink of those glass bottles, that musical sound that defined British mornings for nearly a century. Let me tell you about him. You're standing at your front door now. It's 6:30 in the morning and the world has finally started to wake up properly. The knocker-upper's tap feels like hours ago, though it's only been 4. You've already done half a shift at the mill. Your hands are sore. Your back aches. But there's something happening out on the street that makes you pause before heading back inside. That sound. The low electric hum of a milk float coming down the road. The clink and rattle of glass bottles shifting in their wire crates. And there he is, Steve. Same man who's been delivering to this street for longer than you've been alive. His float is a strange-looking thing if you're not used to it. 3 wheels, open sides, no doors to speak of, just a platform he can hop on and off of without slowing down. The whole vehicle runs on batteries, which means it barely makes a noise. Perfect for 5 in the morning when everyone's still asleep. Not so useful now, but Steve keeps the same pace regardless. Old habits. He spots you watching and gives a little wave. Doesn't stop though. Can't stop. He's got 200 houses to hit before noon, and he's already running behind because Mrs. Patterson on Elm Street wanted to talk about her hip surgery for 15 minutes. You watch him work. It's like a dance, honestly. He pulls up to a house, hops off the float before it's fully stopped, grabs 2 bottles of milk in one hand, walks to the doorstep, picks up the empties, leaves the fresh ones, walks back, drops the empties in a crate, hops back on, and he's moving to the next house before you finish blinking. Years of practice, decades of it. Steve's been doing this route for 40 years. 40 years of the same streets. 40 years of watching kids grow up, leave home, have kids of their own. He's delivered milk to 3 generations of some families. Great-grandmothers who remember him as the young lad who took over from old Charlie in '63. Kids who think he's just always been there, like the postbox or the corner shop. If you'd been born a bit earlier, if you'd grown up in the 50s or 60s, This would have been your morning soundtrack. Not an alarm clock, not a phone buzzing, just the gentle clink of glass bottles being set down on doorsteps all along your street. People used to say they could tell the time by the milkman. 7:15, Steve's at the corner. 7:20, he's passing the greengrocer's. 7:25, he's at your door. But here's what most people don't understand about being a milkman. It wasn't just about the milk. Watch this. You're Steve now. It's 1972, and you've been doing this job for almost a decade. You know every house on your route, not just which ones want full cream and which ones want skimmed. You know which houses have new babies, which ones have teenagers who stay out too late, which elderly folks live alone and might need checking on. There's a system, see? The milk bottles you leave on the doorstep, they're like a signal. If you come back the next morning and yesterday's bottles are still sitting there, untouched, something's wrong. Maybe they're on holiday. Maybe they forgot to bring them in. Or maybe Mrs. Chen, who's 84 and lives alone since her husband died, has fallen and can't get to the door. You've found 3 people like that over the years. 3 times you've noticed the bottles piling up, knocked on the door, got no answer, and called someone to check. 2 of them were fine, gone to visit relatives and forgot to cancel the milk. But one of them, old Bernard on Ashworth Street, he'd had a stroke in his kitchen. Doctors said if you hadn't noticed, if you hadn't raised the alarm, he'd have died there on the linoleum. That's the job. That's what people don't see. You're not just delivering dairy products, you're the person who notices, the one who pays attention when nobody else does. The money's not great if you're honest. Never has been. You start work at 4 in the morning, sometimes earlier in summer when the milk needs to get to doorsteps before the sun warms it up. You finish around noon if everything goes smoothly, later if it doesn't. Customers leave their payment in the empty bottles, coins tucked underneath them, or little envelopes with the exact change. Sometimes they leave notes too. 2 extra pints, please, Steve, my sister's visitin'. Just one today, Jim's in hospital. Could you check on number 42? Haven't seen Mrs. Okonkwo in days. You read those notes and you know what's happening in people's lives. You know who's celebrating and who's struggling. You know which marriages are falling apart because suddenly there's only 1 name on the milk order instead of 2. You know which families just had good news because they've added cream and eggs to their usual order, probably planning a special breakfast. In 1964, they started giving out awards for this job. Personality Milkman of the Year, they called it. A man named George Jones from Llandudno in Wales won it that year. Got his picture in all the papers. Travelled down to London to collect his prize at the National Dairy Centre on Charing Cross Road, like he was receiving a medal from the Queen herself. Think about that for a second. A national competition to find the friendliest milkman in the country. That's how much these people mattered. That's how central they were to daily life. The floats themselves were something special too. Britain had more electric vehicles on its roads by 1967 than any other country in the world, and most of them were milk floats. Not because anyone was worried about the environment back then, simply because milkmen needed to be quiet. You can't go rumbling down a residential street at 5 in the morning in a diesel truck without waking everyone up and losing half your customers. So they built these silent little vehicles, batteries charged overnight at the depot, top speed of maybe 15 miles an hour, though you'd rarely need to go that fast. The whole thing designed around hopping on and off, grabbing bottles, moving quickly from house to house without ever fully stopping. Some kids used to help the milkman on his rounds. You remember this if you grew up in that era. Saturday mornings or summer holidays, you'd wake up early and ask if you could ride along. Most milkmen were happy to have the company. You'd sit on the back of the float, legs dangling, and when he pulled up to a house, you'd jump off, grab the bottles, run them to the doorstep, run back. No wages. Maybe a free bottle of chocolate milk if you did a good job. But the thrill of it was enough. There was a milkman called Dirty Dick who let kids ride with him on Sundays. Nobody remembers why they called him that. He wasn't particularly dirty, just one of those nicknames that sticks for reasons lost to time. Kids would fight for the chance to help Dirty Dick on his rounds. Best morning of the week. Your float is getting older now. It's 1978 and the casing is rusted in places. The batteries don't hold a charge like they used to. The dairy keeps talking about getting new vehicles, but the money's tight. People are buying their milk from supermarkets these days. Big cold cases full of plastic bottles, cheaper than doorstep delivery, easier to grab while you're doing your weekly shop. You've lost 40 customers this year alone. 40 houses that used to have bottles waiting for you every morning. Now they just have empty doorsteps. The housewives who used to wave at you from their kitchen windows, they're driving to Tesco instead. The notes asking for extra cream, there are fewer of them every month. It's not personal. You know that. It's just how things change. Refrigerators got better, got bigger. People don't need fresh milk delivered every single day anymore. They can buy a week's worth and keep it cold. But still, 40 years you've been doing this. 40 years of knowing these streets better than anyone. You've watched the children grow up. You've watched the old folks pass away. You were there through power cuts and snowstorms and that heat wave in '76 when you had to start your rounds at 3 a.m. just to get the milk delivered before it spoiled. Mrs. Patterson on Elm Street, the one who talks your ear off about her hip, she's been your customer since 1965. Her daughter was born that year. You delivered milk to the house the morning she came home from the hospital. Now that daughter has children of her own, and they've moved to Birmingham, and Mrs. Patterson is alone in that house with nobody to talk to except you. So, yeah, you stand there and listen to her talk about her hip for 15 minutes. 'Cause that's part of the job too. That's always been part of the job. By the 90s, most of the milkmen were gone. The floats disappeared from British streets. The clink of bottles at dawn became a memory instead of a daily occurrence. A few holdouts kept going, especially in smaller towns where people still like the personal touch. But the golden age was over. The supermarkets had won. There's something sad about that, isn't there? Not just the loss of a job, but the loss of that daily connection. Someone who knew your name. Someone who noticed if you didn't answer your door. Someone who could tell you were going through a rough patch just by reading the notes you left in empty bottles. You're back in your own bed now. Your own time. The milkman doesn't come to your street anymore. Probably hasn't for decades. You buy your milk in plastic jugs from a grocery store, and you don't know the name of a single person who works there. But somewhere in Britain, a few milk floats are still humming along. A few milkmen are still making their rounds, still reading the notes, still noticing the bottles that haven't been collected, still keeping an eye on the Mrs. Pattersons of the world, making sure someone's checking in. And as the morning goes on, as Steve finishes his route and heads back to the depot, another sound is starting to echo through the streets. A different kind of call, a different kind of worker moving through the neighbourhood. A man with a horse and cart shouting 2 words that every child in Britain used to know. Rag bone. You can hear him coming now. And what he's offering, the strange barter system he's running out of the back of that cart, it's something you need to see to believe. But hold on. Before we leave Steve and his milk float behind, there's more you need to understand about this job, about what it cost and what it gave. Come back to the depot with me, 4 a.m, It's still pitch black outside and the air is so cold it burns your lungs when you breathe in too fast. You're Steve again, 23 years old, new to this job, still learning the routes. The depot smells like sour milk and diesel exhaust. Dozens of floats are lined up, plugged into charging stations that hum and click in the darkness. The other milkmen are already here, loading their vehicles, checking their orders. Nobody talks much at this hour. Too early for conversation. Just the sound of bottles clinking and the squeak of trolley wheels on concrete. Your round sheet is pinned to a clipboard. 218 houses today. You've got it memorized now, but in the beginning you had to check it constantly. Left on Ashworth, right on Maple, straight through to Canterbury Road. Mrs. Chen gets 2 pints of full cream. The Johnsons want skimmed. The Petersons switched to gold top last week and you keep forgetting. Loading the float is an art form. You learn this quickly. Heavy crates on the bottom or the whole thing tips when you take corners. Glass bottles facing inward so they don't crack against the sides. Eggs in a separate carrier because one good bump and you're delivering omelettes instead of breakfast. The batteries are charged. The milk is loaded. You climb onto the float and it dips under your weight. These things are built light, barely more than a platform with wheels and a motor. Your knees will ache from standing by the time you're 30. Your back will never quite be right again. But that's the price of the job and you pay it without thinking because what else are you going to do? The streets are empty at this hour. Just you and the float and the darkness. Street lamps throw pools of yellow light onto wet pavement. A cat watches you from someone's garden wall. The whole city is sleeping and you're the only one moving through it. A ghost with a payload of dairy. First delivery. You pull up, hop off, grab the bottles. The doorstep is slick with dew. You set the fresh milk down, pick up the empties, notice the note tucked underneath. Morning, Steve. Could we try Jersey milk this week? Peter thinks it might help his stomach. You don't know Peter. Never met him. But you know his stomach troubles now. You know his wife thinks Jersey milk might be the answer. You'll remember to bring Jersey milk tomorrow. You'll remember to ask next week if it helped. That's the job. Hundreds of small intimacies. Hundreds of lives you brush against without ever quite entering. You know their breakfast habits and their health problems and their family dramas. But you couldn't tell someone what colour their living room walls are. It's a strange kind of closeness. Surface level but somehow deep at the same time. The sun starts coming up around 6:30 in summer, later in winter. The streets change character. Lights flick on in bedroom windows. Front doors open as men head off to work and children head off to school. People wave at you, say good morning. You've become part of the landscape, as permanent as the postbox, as reliable as the sunrise. There's a warmth in that, a sense of belonging. You're not just doing a job, you're woven into the fabric of these neighbourhoods. When you take a holiday, people notice. They ask where you've been when you come back. They've missed the familiar sound of your float coming down the street, and when you retire decades from now, they'll put a card through your door at the depot. Hundreds of signatures from customers you've served for 30, 40 years. Thank you, Steve. We'll miss you, Steve. Good luck, Steve. Who's going to check on us now, Steve? The job pays for a small house and a decent life. Not luxury, never luxury, but enough. Enough to raise kids. Enough to take the family to Blackpool for a week each summer. Enough to feel like you're providing, like you're doing something that matters. Because it does matter. You know it matters. Every morning when you set those bottles down on doorsteps, you're giving people something they need. Something basic and essential. Fresh milk for their tea, cream for their porridge, eggs for their breakfast. And you're giving them something else too, something harder to name. The comfort of routine, the assurance that someone out there is thinking about them, keeping track, showing up every single day without fail. That's worth something. That's worth 40 years of early mornings and aching knees and rusted floats. But nothing lasts forever. The supermarkets came. The refrigerators got bigger. The world changed and the milkman changed with it. From essential service to nostalgic memory. From daily visitor to once-a-week novelty to nothing at all. You set down the last delivery of the morning. It's 11:30. Your float is empty except for the empties rattling in their crates. Tomorrow you'll do it all again, and the day after that, and the day after that, until one day you don't. Let yourself drift back now, back to your own bed, your own time. The milkman is gone. The clink of bottles at dawn is a sound from another era. But another sound is rising, that call echoing through the streets of memory. Rag bone, any old iron. The rag and bone man is coming, and you're about to find out why children used to run screaming with excitement at the sound of his cart. You're 8 years old and you've just heard the most exciting sound in the world. Rag bone, any old iron. The voice is distant still, maybe 2 streets over, but it's getting closer. You know this voice. You've been waiting for it all week. You drop whatever you're doing and sprint to the kitchen where your mum is peeling potatoes. Mum! Mum! The rag and bone man's coming. She doesn't even look up, just nods toward the cupboard under the stairs. There's some old curtains in there, and your dad's broken wireless. See what he'll give you for them. You're already pulling open the cupboard door, dragging out anything that looks old or broken or unwanted. The curtains are dusty and smell like your grandmother's house. The wireless has a cracked face and hasn't worked since before you were born. Perfect. This is exactly the kind of stuff he wants. You run outside, arms full, and you're not alone. All down the street, other children are emerging from their houses. Some carry bundles of old clothes. Others have bits of scrap metal, broken toys, chipped crockery. One kid from the end terrace is dragging an entire rusty bicycle frame, scraping it along the pavement like he's discovered buried treasure. And then he appears, the rag and bone man, sitting up on his cart like a king on a throne, reins loose in his weathered hands, a horse plodding steadily ahead of him. The cart is piled high with stuff. There's no other word for it. Mountains of stuff. Old bed frames and tangled wires and lumpy fabric bundles and things you can't even identify from this distance. But you're not looking at the cart. You're looking at what's hanging from the sides of it. Goldfish. Dozens of them. Little plastic bags filled with water, each one containing a single orange fish, swaying gently as the cart moves, and balloons, red ones, blue ones, yellow ones, bobbing in the breeze like the whole cart is about to lift off and float away. This is what you came for. This is what every kid on the street came for. The man pulls the horse to a stop. He's old, maybe 60, with a flat cap pulled low over his eyes and hands that look like they've spent a lifetime handling rough things. His name is Alf, though you won't learn that for years. To you he's just the rag and bone man, the magic man who turns your family's rubbish into goldfish. Right then, he says, looking down at the crowd of children, what have we got today? You push forward, holding up your dusty curtains and broken wireless. He takes them from you, examines them with an expert eye, runs the fabric between his fingers, turns the wireless over, peers at the back of it. Not bad, not bad. The curtains are decent. Wireless is only good for parts. He reaches to his side and pulls down one of those plastic bags. Inside, a goldfish is swimming in lazy circles. This do ya? You nod so hard your neck hurts. You take the bag carefully, reverently, like he's just handed you a tiny god. The fish looks up at you through the plastic. You're going to call him Captain. Captain will be dead within a week. They always are. Something about the water in those bags, or the stress of the journey, or just the general fragility of fairground goldfish. But right now, in this moment, he's the most precious thing you've ever owned. The rag and bone man works his way through the crowd. Old clothes get pennies, scrap metal gets balloons, particularly good hauls get goldfish. The system makes no logical sense if you think about it. He's essentially running a carnival game out of the back of a horse-drawn cart. But nobody questions it. This is just how it works. This is how it's always worked. His horse stands patient through all of this. She's called Queenie, you'll learn later. An old mare who's been doing this route so long she could probably do it without Alf at all. She knows which streets to turn down, which houses to stop at. When Alf gets too deep in conversation with a customer, she just starts walking to the next spot on her own. Time to see it from Alf's side. Time to understand what this work really means. You're Alf Masterson. It's 1958, and you've been doing this job for almost 20 years. Started when you were barely more than a boy yourself, helping your uncle on his rounds through Camden. Now you've got your own cart, your own horse, your own territory. The work is simple but not easy. You wake before dawn, same as the milkman, and head to the yard where Queenie is waiting. She knows the sound of your footsteps, starts shifting in her stall before you even open the door. You harness her up, check her hooves, make sure she's fed and watered. A rag and bone man is only as good as his horse. Treat her badly and she'll let you down when you need her most. The cart gets loaded with your trade goods. The goldfish come from a man in Islington who breeds them by the hundreds. The balloons you buy wholesale from a supplier near the docks. You've got boxes of cheap toys too, tin whistles and spinning tops and little wooden puzzles, for when someone brings you something really valuable. Then you're off, through the streets of North London as the city wakes up around you. Rag bone, any old iron. You've got a voice like a foghorn, comes from years of practice. You can make yourself heard 3 streets away without straining. The call is important. It's your announcement, your advertisement, your way of letting people know you're coming. Some rag and bone men have different calls. Some sing little songs. Some ring bells. You've always preferred the traditional way. The words your uncle taught you, the same words rag and bone men have been calling for 100 years or more. What are you actually collecting? Everything. Anything. Old clothes get sorted and sold to textile merchants who'll tear them apart for the raw material. Rags, they call it, hence the name. Bones go to glue factories, fertilizer plants, places that can boil them down for whatever useful substances they contain. Scrap metal gets weighed and sold by the pound. Furniture can be repaired and resold. Broken appliances contain copper wire and other valuable bits if you know where to look. You're a recycler, basically. Before anyone used that word. Before anyone thought of it as something noble or environmentally important. You're just a man with a cart who makes a living turning other people's unwanted things into money. But here's the thing about this job. The thing that keeps you doing it year after year, even when your back aches and your hands are rough, and Queenie is getting too old to pull the cart much longer. You know everyone, every street you work. You know the families. You know the Hendersons on Oak Street whose father lost his job last month, and who've been bringing you anything they can spare to make a few pennies. You know Mrs. Oyalaran on the corner, whose husband died in the war and who always saves her best bits of scrap for you because you once helped her carry groceries when her arms gave out. You know the Flanagan kids, 7 of them, who come running every time they hear your call and who've probably earned enough goldfish to stock an aquarium. You're part of their lives. Not a big part, maybe. Just a man who comes around once a week with a cart full of junk and a pocket full of goldfish. But you're there, consistent, reliable. You've watched those Flanagan kids grow from toddlers to teenagers. You remember when the Henderson house had a new baby, and you remember when Mrs. Oyalaran's roses won a prize at the church fete. That's worth something. That's worth getting up before dawn and shouting yourself hoarse and coming home smelling like old clothes and horse sweat. The money's decent too. Better than most people think. A good day, you can clear £2 or £3. That's solid wages for 1958. Enough to keep a roof over your head and food on the table. Enough to save a little for when Queenie finally can't work anymore and you need to buy a new horse. There's a hierarchy among rag and bone men. Territories, kind of. Unspoken agreements about who works which streets. You don't go into another man's area without permission. That's how fights start. That's how carts get overturned and horses get spooked and everyone loses money. Your territory is a patch of streets between Camden and Kentish Town. You inherited it from your uncle when he retired. You'll pass it on to someone else when you're done, probably to young Billy, who's been helping you out on Saturdays and who's got the voice for it. That carrying quality that makes people look up from their breakfast tables and think about what they've got lying around that they don't need anymore. Henry Mayhew wrote about men like you back in 1851. Counted somewhere between 800 and 1,000 rag and bone men working London alone. 800 men with carts and horses and calls and territories, all making a living from the city's cast-offs. A whole economy built on rubbish. By the time you're old, that economy will be dying. The council will start collecting rubbish properly. People will throw things away instead of saving them for the rag and bone man. The scrap merchants will get trucks and scales and won't need middlemen like you anymore. But that's later. That's years away. Right now in 1958, you're sitting on your cart watching a little boy cradle a plastic bag full of goldfish like it's made of gold. His face is lit up. Pure joy. You gave him that. You took his family's old curtains and broken wireless and turned them into a moment he'll remember for the rest of his life. That's not a bad day's work. That's not bad at all. Queenie starts walking without you telling her to. She knows it's time to move on. You give the reins a little shake, more for show than anything else, and let her carry you to the next street. Ragbone, any old iron? The call echoes between the houses. Doors start opening. Children start running. The whole beautiful, absurd economy cranks into motion once again. You're back in your own time now. Your own bed. The rag and bone man hasn't come to your street in decades. Maybe ever, depending on where you live. The goldfish, the balloons, the creaking cart and patient horse. All of it faded away as the 20th century rolled on, and people found new ways to dispose of their unwanted things. But somewhere in your family's memory, if you're British, there's probably a story about them. A grandmother who traded old sheets for a balloon. A grandfather who helped the rag and bone man load his cart for a few pennies. A great-aunt who named her goldfish something ridiculous and cried when it died 3 days later. These memories are getting rarer now. The people who lived them are getting older, dying off, taking their stories with them. In another generation or two, the rag and bone man will be as distant as the lamplighter or the town crier, just a figure from history books, just a strange job that sounds made up. But he was real. Alf was real. Queenie was real. Those goldfish, Fragile as they were, swimming in their little bags while children carried them home like treasure, they were real too. And now, as the afternoon settles into evening, as the rag and bone man finishes his rounds and heads back to the yard to unload his cart and brush down his horse, another figure is making her way through the offices and factories of Britain. You can hear the rattle of her trolley, the clink of cups on saucers, and if you're lucky, if you work in the right kind of place, you're about to experience one of the most beloved rituals in British working life. The tea lady is coming, and she knows exactly how you take yours. But hold on, there's more to the rag and bone man's world that you haven't seen yet. Come a bit deeper into this life. You're back in Alf's boots. It's a Saturday in late autumn 1962, and young Billy is riding on the cart with you. He's 15, all elbows and enthusiasm, and he's been helping you out for the past year, learning the trade, learning the calls, learning which streets are generous and which ones aren't worth the time. Watch how I do this, you tell him as Queenie stops outside a row of terraced houses in Holloway. Don't just grab whatever they give you. Look at it first. Feel the weight of it. Fabric's got to be clean, or mostly clean. Metal's got to be solid, not all rusted through. You take rubbish thinking it's treasure. You lose money when you get to the yard. Billy nods, serious as a judge. He's got the right attitude. Not everyone does. Some boys think this is easy work, just driving around collecting junk. They don't last. The boys who last are the ones who understand that this is a craft, that there's skill in knowing what's valuable and what's worthless, that the difference between a good rag and bone man and a poor one is the quality of his eye. A woman comes out of number 47 with a bundle of old coats. You can tell from 20 feet away that they're good ones. Wool, mostly. Heavy. The kind of thing the textile merchants love because there's real material there, not just cotton and polyester that falls apart when you look at it. "What'll you give me for these then?" she asks. You climb down from the cart, take the bundle, spread out the coats one by one, check the linings, feel the seams, look for moth damage, stains, tears that would reduce the value. "6pence for the lot, you say." She frowns. "They cost a lot more than 6pence when they were new." "I'm sure they did, love. But they're not new now, are they?" You keep your voice friendly. This is part of the dance. Everyone haggles a little. Everyone wants to feel like they got a fair deal. "Tell you what, 6pence and a balloon for your little one." She's got a daughter hiding behind her skirt, 3 or 4 years old. The girl's eyes go wide at the mention of a balloon. "Go on then," the woman says. 6pence and a balloon." You hand over the coins, pull down a red balloon, tie it to the little girl's wrist. She stares at it like you've just handed her the moon. The mother goes back inside. You load the coats onto the cart. "See that?" you say to Billy. "She was happy. I was happy. The girl got a balloon. Everyone wins." "But those coats were worth more than 6pence, Billy says. "Course they were. They're worth at least 2 bob at the yard. Maybe more. But I gave her what she expected, plus something extra for the kid. She'll remember that. She'll save her good stuff for me instead of giving it to one of the other men. That's how you build a territory, son. Not by squeezing every penny. By being fair. By being the one people want to deal with." Billy thinks about this. You can see him filing it away. Good. He'll need it. The afternoon wears on. The cart gets heavier. Queenie moves slower, but she's steady. Never complains. Never balks. 30 years you've been working with horses, and Queenie's the best you've ever had. When she goes, and she will soon because she's getting on now, it'll be like losing a partner. There's a social element to this work that people don't expect. You stop at the pub around 3, let Queenie rest and water her, and you go in for a pint. The publican knows you. The regulars know you. You swap gossip, share news, hear about who's hiring and who's firing and whose daughter just got married. This is how information moves through working-class London, not through newspapers, through men like you, who travel from street to street and carry stories along with the scrap metal. Heard the Gibsons on Caledonian Road are moving, someone tells you. Emigrating to Australia. Might have some good stuff to get rid of. You make a mental note. Tomorrow you'll swing by the Gibsons, see what they're willing to part with. Families moving overseas often have too much to take and not enough time to sell it properly. That's when you get the really good finds. The furniture nobody wants to ship across the world. The silverware that's been in the family for generations but isn't worth the postage. By 5 o'clock the light is fading and the cart is full. Time to head back to the yard. You'll unload everything, sort it into piles. Rags here, metal there, bones in the corner. Then you'll settle up with the buyers who come around in the evenings looking for stock. The textile man will take the clothes. The scrap dealer will take the metal. The bone merchant will take whatever's left. Tomorrow you'll do it all again, and the day after, and the day after that, until you can't any more. There's a photograph of Alf Masterson from 1967, the last year he worked. He's standing next to a cart that's mostly rust and patches, holding Queenie's bridle. She died 3 months after that picture was taken. He never got another horse. Couldn't face it, people said. Couldn't imagine doing the rounds with anyone else. The yard he worked out of is a block of flats now. The streets he called through are still there, but the people are different. The children who traded old clothes for goldfish are grandparents now, or great-grandparents, or gone altogether. What stays is the echo of that call. Rag bone, any old iron, bouncing off terraced houses in the early morning, making kids run to their cupboards looking for treasure, making mothers shake their heads and dig out whatever they'd been meaning to throw away. That sound, that strange, wonderful, completely ridiculous economy of balloons and goldfish and broken things. It was real, it was Britain, and now it's gone. Let yourself drift back now. Your own bed, your own quiet evening. No rag and bone men calling outside your window. No Queenie plodding down your street. Just the memory of a world that used to be, fading gently into sleep. But the working day isn't over yet. Not in the Britain we're remembering. Because somewhere in an office building, in a factory, in a department store, a very important ritual is about to begin. The rattle of a trolley, the clink of cups, the question everyone's been waiting for since the last break ended. Tea, love? The tea lady's making her rounds, and she's got biscuits. You're sitting at a desk. It's 1963 and the clock on the wall says 10:45. You've been typing for 3 hours straight. Your fingers ache. Your eyes are tired from staring at carbon paper and tiny print. The office around you is a sea of identical desks, identical typewriters, identical women in identical blouses, all clacking away at their keyboards like some kind of mechanical orchestra. And then you hear it, the rattle, distant at first, then closer, metal wheels on linoleum, the gentle percussion of cups shifting on saucers, a sound so familiar, so welcome, that half the office looks up at exactly the same moment. Alice is coming. She rounds the corner, pushing her trolley, and the whole mood of the room changes. Shoulders relax, typing slows. People start to smile. It's not just about the tea, though the tea is important. It's about Alice herself, about what she represents. A break, a breath. A moment of human contact in the middle of a long grey day. "Morning, loves," she says, parking the trolley at the end of your row. Who's ready for a cuppa? You're ready. God, you're ready. You've been thinking about this tea for the last 45 minutes, watching the clock, willing it to move faster. Your mouth is dry from too much talking on the telephone. Your brain is fuzzy from too many numbers and not enough fresh air. Alice works her way down the row. She doesn't need to ask anyone how they take it. She knows. 37 people in this office, and she knows every single one of their preferences. Mrs. Henderson takes hers weak with 2 sugars. Mr. Blackwood wants it strong enough to stand a spoon in. No sugar, just a splash of milk. Young Patricia from the filing room likes hers with so much milk it's barely brown anymore. When Alice gets to you, she's already pouring. Knows exactly how much to fill the cup. Knows you like it medium strength, 1 sugar, stirred clockwise for some reason you can't even explain. She hands it to you with a biscuit balanced on the saucer. Digestive. Your favourite. You look tired, love, she says. Not loud enough for anyone else to hear, just between the 2 of you. Long week, you say. She nods. Pats your shoulder once. Moves on to the next desk. That's it. That's the whole conversation. But somehow you feel better. Somehow the afternoon doesn't seem quite so endless anymore. This is what a tea lady did. Not just pouring drinks. Not just pushing a trolley around. She was the beating heart of an office. The person who knew everyone's name and everyone's troubles. The one who noticed when someone was having a bad day and slipped them an extra biscuit without making a fuss about it. Let me put you in Alice's shoes now. Show you what the job looked like from the other side. You're Alice Bond. It's 5 in the morning and you're already at work setting up for the day. The industrial kitchen in the basement of this insurance company smells like yesterday's soup and tomorrow's tea. Your urn is heating up, a massive copper thing that holds enough water for 200 cups. You've been doing this for 11 years now, and you could run this kitchen blindfolded. The trolley gets loaded with precision. Cups on the left, saucers stacked underneath, milk in the blue jug, sugar in the white bowl, teaspoons in the little ceramic holder your daughter made in school, the one with the wonky handle that you've used every day for 6 years. Biscuits go in the tin, arranged so they won't crumble when the trolley moves. First round is at 7 for the early shift workers, men mostly from the post room and the maintenance department. They like their tea hot and strong and they don't much care about saucers. You pour straight into mugs for them, thick ceramic things that can survive being dropped. Second round is at 10 for the typing pool and the secretaries. That's when you need the good china. The women in that department have standards. They notice if a cup is chipped or a saucer is stained. You learned that the hard way your first week on the job. Third round is at 3 for everyone who's still awake and functioning. By then you've made maybe 300 cups of tea. Your arms are tired from lifting the urn. Your feet are sore from pushing the trolley across different floors, in and out of lifts, up and down corridors. But you keep smiling. That's part of the job. That's most of the job, if you're honest. The thing about being a tea lady is that people talk to you. Really talk. Not the polite surface stuff they say to their managers or their colleagues. The real stuff. The problems at home. The worries about money. The husband who drinks too much. The daughter who's got herself in trouble. They tell you because you're safe. You're not part of their world, not really. You're the woman with the trolley who comes and goes and never judges. You know secrets about this company that would make the directors blush. You know who's sleeping with who's been embezzling from the petty cash, who cries in the toilets every Thursday afternoon for reasons nobody else has figured out. You know it all, and you never say a word. That's the code. That's how it works. The tea lady knows everything and tells nothing. There's a woman on the 4th floor, Patricia, who's been coming to work with bruises she thinks nobody notices. You noticed. You always notice. You started giving her extra biscuits a few weeks ago, sitting with her a little longer when you do the rounds, letting her talk if she wants to, staying quiet if she doesn't. It's not much. It's not solving anything, but it's something. That's what this job is. 1,000 small somethings. A cup of tea when someone needs it. A kind word when the day is hard. A moment of warmth in an office that can feel very cold. The war changed everything, people say. Before the war, tea ladies were just servants. After the war, when women had worked in factories and driven ambulances and proved they could do anything, the tea lady became something different. A respected position. A necessary one. The person who kept morale up when the work was boring and the bosses were demanding and the future felt uncertain. By the time you retire, decades from now, the tea ladies will be mostly gone, replaced by vending machines that dispense bitter coffee and tepid soup, replaced by kitchenettes where people make their own drinks and don't talk to anyone while they do it. Something will be lost. That daily moment of human connection, that ritual of cups and saucers and someone who knows your name. But that's later. Right now, in 1963, you're pushing your trolley through the typing pool and everyone is looking up and smiling, and the whole room feels a little bit lighter, because you're there. The typing pool, look at it for a moment. Really look. 30 women, maybe 40, sitting at identical desks in identical rows, each one facing an identical typewriter. The sound is incredible. A constant clatter of keys like rain on a tin roof, like 100 tiny hammers all striking at once. This is the soundtrack of office life in the 50s and 60s. The clickety-clack of the typing pool. These women are fast. 60 words a minute minimum. Some can do 80, 90, 100. Their fingers fly across the keys without looking, without thinking. The letters appear on the page as if by magic. You're one of them now. Margaret. It's 1957, and you've been in the pool for 3 years. Your desk is in the 4th row, between Patricia, who types faster than anyone, and Susan, who makes the fewest errors. You're somewhere in between. Fast enough. Accurate enough. Good at your job without being exceptional. The work comes down from the executives on the floors above. Handwritten drafts, dictation recordings, scribbled notes that you have to decipher. You transform all of it into crisp, clean documents. Letters to clients. Reports for meetings, memos that will be filed and forgotten. Mistakes are expensive. There's no delete key on a typewriter, no backspace that actually removes what you've written. If you hit the wrong letter, you've got choices. Correction fluid, which looks messy. Correction tape, which looks slightly less messy. Or starting over completely, which wastes time and paper. The supervisors watch. They actually time you sometimes, standing behind your chair with a stopwatch. Words per minute, errors per page, everything measured, everything counted. The good typists get the important documents. The less good ones get the routine stuff. There's a hierarchy here, even though everyone's doing the same basic job. Your hands ache by the end of the day. Your shoulders are tight from hunching over the machine. Your ears ring from hours of constant noise. But there's something satisfying about it too. That stack of finished documents, that pile of work completed, proof that you were here, that you did something, that the office couldn't function without you. The personal computers came eventually. Word processors first. Then proper computers with screens and keyboards and that magical delete key. The typing pools emptied out. The women found other work or retired or were made redundant. The sound of 40 typewriters clattering in unison became a memory. But right now, in 1957, you're part of something. Part of the machinery that keeps British business running. Your fingers on the keys, your words on the page, one document at a time. Let yourself settle into that image for a moment. The rattle of the tea trolley moving between the desks, the steam rising from the urn, the constant percussion of typewriters in the background, the gentle murmur of conversation as people take their breaks and catch up on gossip, and remember that they're human beings, not just workers. Your cup is warm in your hands. The tea is exactly right. Alice has moved on to the next department, her trolley rattling away down the corridor, but the feeling she left behind stays with you. That small kindness, that moment of being seen. And now another voice is cutting through the office noise, a voice you know well, a voice that connects you to the world outside these walls. Number, please. The telephone on your desk is ringing, and somewhere, in a vast room full of cables and plugs and switchboards, a woman is about to connect you to whoever's calling. Let me take you there, to that room, to those women, to one of the strangest and most demanding jobs in British history. You're sitting in front of a switchboard. It's 1954, and the board in front of you stretches 8 feet wide and 6 feet tall. A wall of holes and cables and tiny lights that blink and flash like stars. You're wearing a headset. Your hands are moving constantly, plugging cables in, pulling them out, routing calls from one line to another. Number, please. The voice in your ear gives you a number. Whitehall 4729. Your hands are already moving before your brain has finished processing. You know where that number lives on the board. You've connected calls to it 100 times. Your fingers find the right hole, plug in the cable, and somewhere across London 2 people start talking to each other because you made it happen. This is the telephone exchange. This is where calls go to get connected. And the women who work here, the operators, they're the invisible voices that hold the whole system together. There's a training period for this job. 3 months minimum. They teach you the geography of the switchboard. They teach you which numbers go where. They teach you how to speak clear and professional with that particular operator voice that sounds friendly but not too friendly, helpful but not too familiar. They also teach you what not to say. No chatting with callers. No commenting on what you overhear. No reactions, no matter what comes through those lines. You might connect a woman to her dying mother. You might connect a man to his mistress. You might hear arguments and confessions and business deals worth thousands of pounds. None of it is any of your business. You're just the voice that says number, please, and the hands that make the connection. The hours are brutal. Shifts run around the clock because the telephone never sleeps. You might work days 1 week, nights the next. You might start at midnight and finish at 8 in the morning, walking home through empty streets while the rest of the world is just waking up. The pay is decent but not generous. The work is repetitive but demanding. Your arms ache from reaching across the board. Your ears ring from the constant noise of the exchange. But there's something about it. Something that keeps women coming back year after year. You're part of something important. Every call you connect is a piece of human communication. A grandmother calling her grandchildren. A businessman closing a deal. A doctor receiving an emergency summons. Without you. Without your hands and your voice and your knowledge of that massive switchboard, none of those conversations happen. They called you the Hello Girls back in the early days. The girls who said hello when you picked up the phone. The nickname stuck even as you got older. Even as the girls became women in their 30s and 40s and 50s who'd been doing this job for decades. There were rules, of course. So many rules. You had to be unmarried when you started. They expected you to resign when you got engaged, definitely when you got married. The thinking was that married women had too many distractions, that a husband and children would interfere with the concentration the job required. This seems insane now. It seemed a bit insane then, to be honest. But that's how it worked. You kept your engagement ring in your pocket. You didn't mention the wedding plans. You pretended to be single and available even when you weren't, because you needed the job and the job needed you. And here's a strange requirement that nobody ever quite explained. Your arms had to be long enough. Not kidding. They measured you during the hiring process, stretched out your arms to make sure you could reach across the full width of the switchboard. If you were too short, too compact, if your arms couldn't span those 8 feet of cables and plugs, you didn't get the job. Simple as that. The last manual telephone exchange in London was called Enfield. It closed on the 5th of October 1960. That's the day the machines took over completely. The day the hello girls became unnecessary. They had a ceremony and everything. The final call, the final number please, the final cable plugged into the final hole. Some of those women had been operators for 30 years, had connected millions of calls, had heard more secrets than any priest or therapist. And now they were walking out of the exchange for the last time, their skills obsolete, their voices no longer needed. Progress, they called it. Automation. The future. Maybe. But something was lost too. That human voice on the other end of the line. The knowledge that when you picked up your telephone, a real person was there to help you. That you weren't just talking to wires and machines, but to someone who might remember your voice, might recognize your number, might even care whether your call went through. You're back in your own bed now, your own quiet night. If you pick up your phone, no one says number, please. No hello girl is waiting to connect you. You just tap a screen and the call happens like magic, like the system runs itself. But it didn't always. There was a time when every call was a small act of human cooperation, a voice asking what you needed, hands moving across a board, cables plugging into holes, a connection made person to person all the way down the line. Rest for a moment. Let the image of that switchboard fade. Let the voices of the tea ladies and the telephone operators settle into memory. The evening is coming, the working day is ending. And across Britain, in bus depots and train stations, another group of workers is preparing for the journey home. You can hear the bell now. 2 rings. That means the bus is about to move, and the person ringing it, the one who'll take your fare and give you a ticket, they've got a story too. But before we get on that bus, let me show you one more moment from the telephone exchange. One more glimpse into that world of cables and voices. You're Jean now, Jean Singleton. It's 1957 and you've been working the night shift for 3 years. The exchange is quieter at this hour. Fewer calls, more time between connections, more time to think. The board in front of you hums with electricity. Little lights blink on and off as calls come in and go out across the city. You've learned to read the patterns, busy times and quiet times, the rush at 9 when businesses open, the lull at 2 in the afternoon, the strange flurry at midnight when people remember things they forgot to say during the day. A light blinks. You plug in. Number, please. The voice on the other end is shaky. An older woman, you think, maybe 60s or 70s. She gives you a number and you start to connect it. but something makes you pause. "Is everything all right, madam?" You're not supposed to ask. The rules are clear. Connect the call. Don't engage. Don't get involved. But something in her voice. She trails off. "I just wanted to hear someone. My husband passed last month. The house is very quiet." Your hands hover over the board. The number she gave you is for the speaking clock. She wasn't calling anyone. She was calling just to hear a voice. Any voice. "I'm sorry for your loss," you say. Against the rules. Against everything they taught you. "Would you like me to stay on the line for a moment?" She does. You talk for 3 minutes. About nothing, really. The weather, her garden, her husband's favourite things. Then another call comes in, and you have to go. But you tell her she can call again. Any time. You'll be here. This is the job they didn't train you for. The human part. The part where you're not just connecting calls, but connecting people. The lonely ones, the scared ones, the ones who dial numbers just to hear that someone is there. There was a supervisor at Enfield Exchange named Bella Sinclair, first female telephone operator in the Orkney Islands, way back when the system was new. She used to say that the switchboard wasn't just technology, it was a web of human voices, stretched across cities and countries, held together by the women who sat at these boards and made the connections happen. She was right. For all the cables and plugs and complicated machinery, the telephone system ran on human beings, on women who learned the geography of sound, who could hear a number and their hands would move to the right spot before their minds had finished thinking, who knew the rhythm of a city's communication, its busy times and quiet times, its secrets and its sorrows. And then the machines came. Automatic exchanges, direct dialing, no more number please, no more hello girls, just buttons and tones and connections that happened without any human involvement at all. Progress, efficiency, the future. But somewhere in the middle of the night, there's still a lonely widow who would have liked to hear a kind voice. And the speaking clock, accurate as it is, doesn't care about her garden or her husband's memory or the quiet that fills her house like water. Some things the machines can't do. Some connections require a human hand. Let that thought settle as you drift. The switchboard fading. The voices fading. The whole busy, wonderful human system of communication fading into history. The evening is here now. The workday has ended. And somewhere across Britain, a bus is waiting. You can hear the engine idling. You can see the lights glowing warm and yellow against the darkening sky. Time to go home. Time to catch that bus. And the person waiting to take your fare, the one with the ticket machine strapped to their chest and the leather pouch full of change. They're ready for you. 2 bells. The bus starts moving, and you're about to meet the conductor. The bus lurches forward and you grab the pole just in time. It's a double-decker, red as a postbox, and you're standing on the open platform at the back because all the seats downstairs are taken. The wind catches your coat as the bus picks up speed. Cold, but not unpleasant. There's something exciting about standing here, one hand on the pole, watching the street slide past behind you. And then she appears, the conductor, moving down the aisle toward you with a ticket machine strapped across her chest and a leather pouch jingling at her hip. She's maybe 40, with hair pinned back under a cap and eyes that have seen everything a London bus can show you. Fares, please. Any more fares? It's not a question. It's a statement. A rhythm. She's been saying those words so many times a day for so many years that they've become automatic, like breathing. You fish in your pocket for coins, 2pence to get you home. She takes the money without looking, her fingers sorting it by feel alone, and cranks the handle on her ticket machine. There's a mechanical chunk-chunk sound, and a little paper ticket spits out. She tears it off, hands it to you, and she's already moving to the next passenger before you've got it in your pocket. This is the bus conductor. The clippy, they called them during the war when women took over the job from men who'd gone to fight. The name stuck even after the men came back, even after women and men worked side by side on the buses for decades. Clippies, because of the sound the ticket machine made. Clip, clip, clip. Here's what this job really looked like. Here's what it felt like on the other side of that ticket machine. You're George now, George Owen Holloway. It's 1958, and you've been conducting on the Brighton buses for 12 years. They call you Titch at the depot because you're not exactly tall, but what you lack in height you make up for in knowing every route, every stop, every regular passenger who climbs aboard your bus. The morning shift starts at 5:30. You're at Whitehawk Garage before dawn, signing in, checking the duty board, finding out which bus you're on today. Number 47. Good bus. Engine runs smooth. Brakes work properly. Some of the older ones you've got to pump the bell 3 times before the driver hears it. Not the 47. Your driver today is Maurice. Been working with him for 6 years now. You don't need to talk much anymore. You've got a language of bells and hand signals that says everything. 1 ring means stop at the next one. 2 rings means move on. A rapid 3 rings means emergency. Something's wrong. Stop right now. The first passengers board at the depot. Early workers heading into town. Cleaners mostly. Hospital staff, people whose days start before the sun comes up. You know most of them by sight. Mrs. Adeyemi, who works at the Royal Sussex. Mr. Kowalczyk, who's been riding this route since before you started. The young lad from the fish market who always smells like the sea. Morning, Titch. Morning, love. Same as usual, she nods. You crank out her ticket without asking for money. She's got a weekly pass. You checked it on Monday. You remember. You always remember. The bus fills up as the route goes on. Standing room only by the time you hit the town centre. You're moving constantly now, squeezing between passengers, making change, tearing tickets, answering questions. Someone wants to know if this bus goes to the hospital. Someone else needs to get to the station but isn't sure which stop. A mother with a pram needs help getting on board. You lift the front of the pram, guide it into the space under the stairs, make sure it's secure. The mother thanks you. The baby looks up at you with big eyes. You make a face at it. It doesn't smile, but it doesn't cry either. You'll take that as a win. This is the job, not just collecting fares. Managing a moving community, keeping order, keeping people safe, keeping the whole complicated dance of public transport running smoothly, 1 ticket at a time. The teenagers are the hardest. They pile on after school, all noise and energy, pushing each other, laughing too loud, leaving their bags in the aisles where people can trip. You've got to be firm with them, but not too firm. Strict but fair. They're just kids. You were a kid once. You probably drove some poor conductor mad yourself. Oi! Bags off the seats. People need to sit down. They grumble, but they move their bags. One of them gives you a look, that teenage look that says you're old and boring and don't understand anything. You give him a look right back. The look that says, I've been doing this job since before you were born and I've seen harder cases than you, sunshine. He looks away first. Small victory. There's an art to working the open platform at the back of the bus. You've got to time the bell perfectly. Ring it too early and passengers are still boarding. Ring it too late and the driver's already pulled away, leaving someone running behind. You watch the pavement, watch the passengers, feel the rhythm of the stop. Wait, wait, now. 2 bells. The bus moves. You've seen people try to jump on after the bus has started, seen them misjudge the speed, stumble, nearly fall. Once you saw a man go under the wheels of the bus behind. Not your bus, thank God. But the image stays with you. The sound stays with you. You're careful now, more careful than you used to be. The ticket machine is heavy. 8 hours with this thing strapped to your chest, you feel it in your shoulders by the end of the day. The leather pouch full of coins pulls at your hip. Your feet ache from standing on a moving vehicle, constantly adjusting your balance as the bus accelerates and brakes and turns. But there are good moments too. The regular who slips you a cigarette at Christmas. The old lady who tells you about her grandchildren every Tuesday. The drunk who's lost his wallet and needs to get home, and you let him ride for free because sometimes that's just what you do. There's a woman at Whitehawk Garage named Christine Couchman. She started as a conductor back in '64, one of the first women on the Brighton buses since the war. They gave her a hard time at first. Some of the men didn't think women belonged on buses, didn't think they could handle the work, the passengers, the long hours. She proved them wrong. Proved them so wrong that after a few years she asked to train as a driver. Caused a bit of a stir, that did. Women conductors were one thing. Women drivers were something else entirely. The company wasn't sure. The union wasn't sure. Christine was sure enough for all of them. By the time you retire 47 years from now, the conductors will be mostly gone. One-person operation, they call it. The driver does everything, sells tickets through a machine, announces the stops through a speaker. No conductor needed. No Titch working his way down the aisle. No Christine watching the platform to make sure everyone's safely aboard. Efficient. Modern. The way things are going. But something's lost too. That human presence on the bus. Someone to help with the prams and answer the questions and keep an eye on the teenagers. Someone who knows the regulars by name. Someone who makes the journey feel less like transport and more like community. You ring the bell twice. The bus moves on, another stop coming up, another group of passengers waiting in the cold. Fares, please. Any more fares? The words come out automatically. You've said them 10,000 times. You'll say them 10,000 more, and every single time they mean the same thing. I'm here. The bus is running. The world is working the way it's supposed to. Let yourself feel the rhythm of it now. The sway of the bus, the jingle of coins, the chunk of the ticket machine. A simple job, really. Collecting fares, moving people from one place to another. But somehow, in the doings of it, something larger emerges. A web of small connections, a daily ritual of recognition and exchange. The bus rolls on through the evening streets. The lights are coming on in windows. People are heading home from work, from school, from wherever their days have taken them. And you're there on the platform watching it all pass by, part of the city's bloodstream carrying its people where they need to go. Your stop is coming up. You ring the bell once. The bus slows. You step off the platform and onto the pavement, and the bus pulls away behind you, Titch still visible through the window, already dealing with the next passenger, the next fare, the next small moment of connection. You're home now, or nearly home. Just a short walk through streets that are getting darker as the evening settles in. The air is cold, your breath makes little clouds, and as you turn the corner onto your own road you notice something. The coal truck. It's parked 3 houses down, and there's a man lifting sacks off the back. Big sacks. Heavy sacks. 50 kilograms each, maybe more. He's carrying them on his back, walking up garden paths, tipping them into coal bunkers and cellars. This is the coalman, one of the hardest jobs in Britain. And if you've got a fireplace in your house, if you've got a boiler that runs on coal, then this man is the reason you're going to be warm tonight. Time to feel that weight yourself. Time to understand what that sack on your shoulders really means. You're Desmond now. It's 1959, and you've been doing this job since you were 14 years old. Started as a helper, riding on the back of the truck, learning which houses got deliveries and which didn't. Now you're doing the carrying yourself. 3 years in and your shoulders are twice as broad as they used to be. The sack settles across your upper back. 50 kilograms of coal pressing down on you. Your spine compresses. Your legs take the strain. You've learned how to walk with this weight, how to balance it so it doesn't throw you forward, how to breathe through the burning in your muscles. 20 steps to the coal bunker. That's all. 20 steps. But by the end of the day, after 50 or 60 or 70 deliveries, those 20 steps feel like 20 miles. The coal dust gets everywhere, in your hair, up your nose, ground into the lines of your palms until it looks like you're wearing black gloves. You cough it up at night. Black phlegm, black snot. The old-timers say your lungs turn black after a few years. You don't know if that's true. You try not to think about it. There's a horse on this round. Nancy, her name is. She pulls the coal cart through the narrower streets where the truck can't go. She's old now, 17 or 18, but she knows the route better than you do. Some days you don't even need to hold the reins. She just walks to the next house on her own, stops, waits for you to unload, then walks to the next one. The money's decent. Better than decent, actually. Coal delivery pays well because nobody else wants to do it. The hours are long, the work is brutal, and by the time you're 30, your back will never be right again. But you can support a family on this job. You can buy a house, maybe. You can give your kids a better start than you had. Some of the other coal men have what they call coal tattoos. That's when the dust gets into a cut or a scrape and heals over, trapping the black particles under the skin. Permanent marks, badges of the trade. You've got a few yourself now. One on your right forearm where you caught it on a sharp edge. One on your knuckle from a fight you'd rather not talk about. The customers are decent, mostly. They know how hard this job is. They leave out cups of tea for you, or sandwiches if they're feeling generous. Mrs. Okonkwo at number 14 always has a hot drink ready, summer or winter. Mr. Chen at the corner house tips you a shilling at Christmas. Small kindnesses that make the wait a little easier to bear. But the work is getting less. You can feel it changing. More houses converting to gas heating. Electric fires becoming popular. The Clean Air Act came through a few years ago, trying to cut down on the smog that chokes the cities. Coal is on the way out. Everyone knows it. Nobody wants to say it. Your dad did this job. His dad before him. 3 generations of coalmen hauling sacks up garden paths, keeping the fires burning. You thought you'd do it your whole life too. Now you're not so sure. The truck is getting older and the company keeps talking about reducing routes. The new estates being built on the edge of town, they don't even have coal bunkers, central heating, radiators, no coal required. You tip the last sack into Mrs. Patterson's bunker. She's watching from the kitchen window, gives you a wave. You wave back, brush the worst of the dust off your shoulders, and head back to the truck. Nancy is waiting patiently, her breath steaming in the cold air. You give her nose a scratch. Good girl. 1 more street and then you're done for the day. 1 more street of 20-step walks with 50 kilograms on your back, and then home. A hot bath if you're lucky. Food, sleep, and tomorrow, the whole thing again. The evening's properly dark now, street lamps casting pools of orange light, smoke rising from chimneys, that coal smoke that smells like warmth and winter and home. You're tired. Bone tired. The kind of tired that settles into your muscles and doesn't leave until you've slept for 10 hours straight. But there's satisfaction in it too. Real, physical satisfaction. You've done something today. Moved something heavy from one place to another. Kept people warm. Made yourself useful in the most basic, undeniable way possible. Not everyone can say that about their work. Not everyone goes home tired in their body instead of just tired in their head. There's something honest about this job for all its brutality. Something pure. The truck rumbles through the darkening streets. Nancy walks alongside, her hooves clip-clopping on the tarmac. Somewhere in the houses you're passing, families are sitting down to dinner. Coal fires are burning. The warmth you delivered is spreading through living rooms and kitchens. That's you. That's what you did. For all the aching shoulders and black lungs and early mornings, that's what you gave to the world today. Let that image settle now. The coalman heading home in the dark. The horse plodding steadily beside the truck. The smoke rising from 100 chimneys, 100 fires, 100 homes made warm by hands that will never quite be clean again. Your own bed is calling to you now. Your own warmth, your own comfort, your own quiet evening. The buses are still running out there somewhere. The coal trucks are finishing their rounds. The tea ladies have gone home. The telephone operators have signed off. The whole vast machine of British working life is winding down for the night. But there's one more figure moving through the darkness. One more job we haven't talked about yet. Someone with soot on their face and a brush over their shoulder, walking home from a day of climbing into places most people never see. The chimney sweep. And tomorrow, if you're lucky, he might just bring you some unexpected good fortune. The night passes. It always does. The coalman reaches home, scrubs the worst of the black from his hands, falls into bed with muscles aching. The city sleeps. The fires he delivered burn low in their grates, keeping houses warm through the dark hours. And then, slowly, the morning comes. Grey light seeping through curtains. The sound of birds starting up outside your window. You're warm under the blankets, not quite ready to move, hovering in that pleasant space between sleep and waking. And then you hear it. A knock at the door. 3 sharp raps. Your mum's voice from downstairs. That'll be the sweep. I'll let him in. The chimney sweep. You'd forgotten he was coming today. You pull yourself out of bed, curiosity winning over comfort, and pad downstairs in your slippers to watch. He's standing in the hallway when you get there. A man in his 50s, maybe older, with a face that's been weathered by soot and time. He's wearing a battered top hat of all things, and carrying a bundle of long brushes over his shoulder. His clothes are dark, practical, already dusted with black even though he hasn't started yet. "Morning," he says, touching the brim of his hat. "Which fireplace first?" Your mum points him toward the front room. He nods, sets down his equipment, and starts laying out dust sheets with practiced efficiency. He's done this 1,000 times. You can tell by the way he moves. No wasted motion, no hesitation. You watch from the doorway as he feeds the first brush up into the chimney. The handle extends as he adds more sections, pushing the bristles higher and higher into the darkness above the fireplace. Soot starts falling almost immediately, a black rain pattering onto the dust sheets. "Stand back a bit, love," he says without looking at you. "Gets everywhere if you're not careful." You step back. He keeps pushing the brush up, twisting it as he goes, scraping the walls of the chimney clean. More soot falls. The room smells like winter and smoke and something older, something that reminds you of your grandmother's house. This is the chimney sweep, one of the oldest jobs in Britain. Different now than it used to be, thank God. No more climbing boys, those poor children who were sent up into the flues because they were small enough to fit. That was banned 100 years ago. Now it's brushes and vacuum equipment and men who know what they're doing. Let me put you in his boots for a while, show you what the day looks like from behind that layer of soot. You're Arthur now. It's 1962, and you've been sweeping chimneys for 31 years. Started as an apprentice when you were 16, learning from old Mr. Pemberton, who'd been in the trade since before the First War. He taught you everything. How to read a chimney by the sound your brush makes. How to feel when you've hit a blockage. How to talk to customers so they trust you, so they call you back next year. The top hat is tradition, goes back centuries. Nobody remembers exactly why sweep started wearing them, but they did, and now it's part of the uniform, part of the image. People expect to see a sweep in a top hat. Makes them smile. Your hands are black. They're always black, no matter how much you wash them. The soot gets into the creases of your palms, under your fingernails, into the fine lines of your skin. You've given up trying to get them truly clean. You just scrub off the worst of it and live with the rest. There's a superstition about chimney sweeps, has been for as long as anyone can remember. People think you're lucky, think that seeing a sweep brings good fortune, and the luckiest thing of all, they say, is to be kissed by a sweep on your wedding day. You've been hired for weddings, actual weddings. Brides pay you to show up outside the church, shake the groom's hand, kiss the bride on the cheek, wave at the guests. £100 sometimes just for that, just for being there, in your top hat and your sooty clothes, blessing the marriage with whatever strange luck people think you carry. The tradition goes back to King George, they say. The second or the third, depending on who's telling the story. A runaway horse, a coach in danger, a chimney sweep who jumped in and saved the day. The king declared that sweeps were lucky from that day forward, and the belief stuck. Prince Philip shook hands with a chimney sweep on the morning of his wedding to Princess Elizabeth back in 47. The newspapers made a big thing of it. Good luck for the royal marriage, old traditions being honoured. You've got the clipping somewhere in a drawer at home. The soot you collect gets sold. Farmers use it as fertiliser. Something about the nitrogen content. You don't understand the science, but you understand the money. Every sack of soot is a few extra shillings in your pocket, but the trade is dying. You can feel it happening. The Clean Air Act came through in 56, another one in 68. Coal fires are being phased out. Gas heating, electric heating, central heating with radiators, all of them cleaner than coal, all of them requiring no chimney to be swept. Your son won't do this job. He's training to be an electrician, work that isn't going away. You don't argue with him. He's right. In 20 years there won't be enough coal fires left to keep a sweep busy. But for now, you've got work. For now, people still call. And every so often, a bride wants you at her wedding, wants that kiss on the cheek, wants whatever magic people think you carry in your soot-stained hands. You tip your top hat and head out into the grey morning. The streets are quiet. Most people are still having their breakfasts. Let that image settle. The sweep walking through the morning streets, top hat on his head, brushes over his shoulder. A figure from another time, really. Something Victorian that somehow survived into the modern era. Your bed is warm around you. The chimney sweep has come and gone, left your flue clean and your house safe for another year. Now. There's somewhere else I need to take you. Somewhere you probably went 100 times growing up without thinking much about the person who kept it running. The public toilets. I know, not glamorous. But stay with me here, because the women who guarded these places were something else entirely. You're walking through town, 1965. You've been shopping for an hour and nature is calling. You spot the sign for the public conveniences, head down the steps into that underground world of white tiles and disinfectant smell. And there she is, sitting in a little booth by the entrance, the toilet lady. She's maybe 60, maybe older. Hard to tell. She's got a face that says she's seen everything and judged most of it. Her domain is immaculate. The tiles gleam, the mirrors shine. There's not a paper towel out of place. Penny, please. That's the price. 1 penny to use the facilities. That's where the phrase comes from, by the way. Spending a penny. It meant going to the toilet, because it cost a penny to get in. You hand over your coin. She nods you through. But she's watching. Make no mistake, she's always watching. Let me show you her side of things now. You're Doris Blackwood. It's 1958, and you've been the attendant at the Market Street Conveniences for 11 years. This is your kingdom. These tiles, these cubicles, this little underground empire of porcelain and brass. The council pays you. Not much, but steady. And you supplement it with the extras. The basket of toiletries you sell from your booth. Emergency sanitary supplies. Hairpins. Aspirin for the ladies with headaches. Hand towels for the ones who don't want to use the roller towel. You know things about this town. You know who's pregnant before their husbands do, based on how often they visit and how green they look when they leave. You know who's having affairs because they come in to fix their makeup and their hair is always mussed. You know which marriages are in trouble because the wives cry in the cubicles when they think nobody can hear. You hear everything in this job. The tiles echo. People forget. They have conversations they think are private. They sob. They argue. They confess things to friends that they'd never say above ground, and you never tell. That's the code. Same as the tea lady, same as the telephone operator. You know everything and you say nothing. The job is harder than it looks. You're on your feet for 8 hours, mopping, scrubbing, restocking, making sure the place smells clean, not just of disinfectant, but properly clean. Some ladies are particular. Some ladies will complain to the council if there's a single water spot on the mirror. And then there are the troublemakers. The young ones who think it's funny to make a mess. The drunks who wander in and won't leave. The occasional man who accidentally comes down the wrong stairs. You've got a sharp tongue and you're not afraid to use it. This is your territory. You defend it. By the time you retire, the toilet ladies will be disappearing. Councils will cut costs, install automatic payment machines, leave the conveniences unstaffed, which means they'll become magnets for vandalism and worse. But right now, in 1958, you're here. You're keeping things running. You're spending a penny on keeping the public facilities respectable, and the public is spending pennies right back. It's not glamorous. It's not what you dreamed of when you were a girl. But it's honest work. It's necessary work. And there's a pride in doing it well. The day moves on now. The morning errands are finished. You've visited the sweep and used the facilities, and now you're heading somewhere rather more elegant. The department store, the big one in the city centre, the one with the brass doors and the marble floors and the lift that takes you up to the different departments. You can see the lift doors ahead, polished brass gleaming in the store's electric light. And standing beside them, in a uniform so crisp it practically crackles, is the lift attendant, waiting to take you up. You step into the lift. It's smaller than you expected, wood-panelled, with a brass accordion gate that the attendant pulls closed behind you. She's young, maybe 19 or 20, wearing a pillbox hat and white gloves. Her uniform is bottle green with gold buttons. "Which floor, please?" "Third," you say. "Ladies' fashions." She nods, pulls a lever, and the lift begins to rise. There's no buttons here, no numbers to push. Just her, the lever, and years of practice judging exactly when to stop, so the lift floor lines up perfectly with the store floor. "Third floor," she announces as the lift slows. "Ladies' fashions, millinery and accessories." The gate opens. You step out onto carpet so thick your feet sink into it. Behind you, the lift doors close and the attendant is already taking the next customer up. This is Selfridges, or Harrods, or any of the grand department stores that defined British shopping. And the lift attendant is as much a part of the experience as the merchandise itself. You're Dorothy now. It's 1955 and you've been operating this lift for 3 years. You know every floor by heart. Ground floor, perfumery, handbags, stationery. First floor, menswear, shoes, sporting goods. Second floor, furniture, carpets, household appliances, all the way up to the 5th floor restaurant where ladies take tea. The job is precise. Early lifts weren't automatic. They didn't stop themselves. You had to feel it, develop an almost supernatural sense of exactly when to pull the lever, so the lift stopped exactly level with the floor. Too high and passengers would trip stepping out. Too low and they'd stumble stepping in. You've got it down now. 3 years of practice and you can stop this lift within a 1/4 inch of perfect every single time. The store manager tested you once, put a spirit level on the floor to check. You passed. You always pass. The white gloves are part of it. They show that you're clean, professional, worthy of operating this elegant machine. You go through 3 pairs a week because the brass lever leaves marks no matter how careful you are. Standing all day is hard. Your feet ache by closing time. But you keep your posture perfect because that's what's expected. You keep your smile pleasant because that's what's expected. You are, in your small way, an ambassador for the store. Betty from lift number 2 is getting married next month. She'll have to leave after that. Married women don't work here. That's the rule. Betty's good at this job, better than good, but she's in love, and love means leaving. The automatic lifts came in the 60s. Push-button operation, no attendant needed. Just step in, press the number you want, and the machine does the rest. Faster, more efficient. The department stores held out longer than most. They liked the elegance of it, the personal touch. But eventually even they gave in. The lift girls hung up their white gloves, the pillbox hats went back in the boxes, and nobody announced the floors anymore. Let yourself drift now. The lift risin' and fallin', the sweep with his top hat, the toilet lady in her underground kingdom, all those workers, all those jobs, all those small acts of service. The store is closing. The customers are leaving. Outside, the evening has settled in properly. The streets are quiet. The working day is over for most people. The paper boys are getting ready. Tomorrow morning, before dawn, they'll be on their bicycles, bags heavy with news, delivering the world to doorsteps across Britain. But that's tomorrow. For now, just rest. Just let the images settle. The sweep and the toilet lady and the lift girl in her white gloves. All of them fading gently into the quiet of evening. The night is coming, and you're exactly where you're supposed to be. The alarm goes off at 5:30. It's still dark outside, still cold. You lie there for a moment, blankets pulled up to your chin, trying to convince yourself that you really do have to get up, that you really did agree to do this. You're 14 years old, it's 1967, and you've got a paper round. The floor is cold when your feet hit it. You dress quickly, quietly, trying not to wake your brother who's still asleep in the other bed. Lucky sod. He doesn't have to be anywhere until school starts. You've got 2 hours of work ahead of you before you even think about breakfast. Your bike is in the shed, a heavy old thing, hand-me-down from your cousin, with a basket on the front that's barely big enough for what you need to carry. You wheel it out onto the street, the tyres crunching on frost, and start pedalling toward the newsagent. Mr. Patel is already there when you arrive. He's always already there. You're not sure the man ever sleeps. The shop is warm, bright, stacked floor to ceiling with newspapers and magazines. The smell of fresh ink hits you as you walk in. That papery chemical smell that means morning. Running late, Mr. Patel says, not looking up from the stack he's sorting. You're not running late, you're exactly on time. But Mr. Patel says this every morning to every paper boy and girl who walks through his door. It's his way of saying hello. Your bag is waiting for you. Canvas, heavy duty, with a strap that goes across your chest. He's already filled it with the papers for your route. The Daily Mirror for the Hendersons, the Times for old Mr. Crawford, the Sun for half the street, folded and ready to be shoved through letterboxes. You hoist the bag onto your shoulder. It's heavy. Heavier on Sundays when the papers are thick with supplements and magazines. Today is Tuesday, though. Tuesday is light. Tuesday you can manage. Back on the bike. The streets are empty at this hour. Just you and the occasional milk float, passing each other like ships in the grey pre-dawn light. The milkman waves. You wave back. Fellow travellers in this strange early morning world that most people never see. Your route is memorised, has been since the second week, left on Churchill Avenue, right on Maple Street, straight through to the estate at the end, 47 houses, 47 letterboxes, 47 chances to get it right or get it wrong. The Hendersons' letterbox is at knee height. You have to bend down to push the paper through, and if you're not careful it catches on the brush inside and tears. You've learned to fold it tighter, slide it through at an angle. No tears today. Small victory. Mr. Crawford's house has a gate that squeaks. You've tried oiling it yourself, bringing a little can from home, but it still squeaks. You move quickly, hoping the noise doesn't wake him, though part of you suspects he's already awake. Old people don't sleep much. That's what your Nan says anyway. Number 23 has a dog. A yappy little thing that goes mental every time it hears the letterbox rattle. You can hear it now, barking its head off inside the house, probably waking everyone up. Nothing you can do about that. The paper still needs delivering. There's a rhythm to it after a while. Pedal, stop, dismount, walk, post, walk, mount, pedal, over and over. The bag gets lighter with each delivery. Your shoulders stop aching quite so much. The sky starts to lighten from black to grey to something almost blue. You're earning £2.50 a week for this. Not much, but it's yours. Money you earned yourself. Your mum makes you put half of it in savings, but the other half is spending money. Records, sweets, whatever you want. There's a freedom in that. A feeling of being properly grown up, even if you're only 14. Some of the other kids at school have paper rounds too. You compare notes sometimes, whose route is longer, whose bag is heavier, Who has the meanest dog? There's a boy called Kevin who claims he once got chased by a goose on his round. Nobody believes him, but he tells the story anyway. Christmas is the best time. That's when the tips come in. Customers leave envelopes for you, tucked into their letterboxes or handed over when they see you on the street. £1 here, 50p there. One year Mrs. Patterson gave you a fiver and you nearly fell off your bike. The worst time is winter. Proper winter, when the snow comes and the ice makes the roads dangerous and your fingers go numb inside your gloves. You've fallen off twice in 3 years, once on black ice that you didn't see until you were already skidding. Once because a car came round a corner too fast and you swerved into a hedge to avoid it. But you kept going. Both times. Got back on the bike, finished the round, delivered every paper. Because that's what you do. That's the job. Let me show you someone else's morning now. Another route, another bag, another set of streets to memorize. You're Sandra now. Sandra Chen. It's 1973, and you're one of the only paper girls in your town. The boys gave you grief about it at first. Said girls couldn't do paper rounds, said you'd be too slow, too weak, too scared of the dark. You proved them wrong. Your route is the longest in the district. 52 houses, some of them up steep hills that make your legs burn. You finish faster than most of the boys, and you've never missed a day. Not one. Not even when you had the flu and your mum begged you to stay in bed. The papers are your responsibility. That's how you think about it. Those 52 families are counting on you. They want to read the news with their breakfast. They want to know what's happening in the world, and you're the one who makes that possible. There's something peaceful about these early mornings. The world is quiet. No cars, no crowds, no noise. Just you and your bike and the rustle of newspapers in your bag. Sometimes you sing to yourself as you ride. Little songs. Nothing anyone would recognize. Just melodies that match the rhythm of your pedaling. You know things about your route that nobody else knows. Which houses have dogs? Which letterboxes stick? Which gardens have motion sensor lights that'll blind you if you're not expecting them? You know that the Johnsons on Baker Street are getting divorced because Mrs. Johnson started ordering a separate paper 3 months ago. You know that old Mr. Williams passed away because his papers started piling up, and eventually someone called the police. That was hard. That day. Seeing the ambulance outside his house, knowing you'd been pushing papers through a dead man's letterbox for 3 days. Nobody blamed you. How could you have known? But you think about it sometimes. You look at the windows now as you deliver. Check for signs of life. Signs that someone's still there to read what you're bringing them. The job won't last forever. You know that too. Someday you'll be too old for paper rounds, or you'll get a proper job that pays real money, or the papers will find some other way to get delivered. But for now, this is yours. These streets, these mornings, this feeling of being useful before the world has even properly woken up. Your bag is empty now, the last paper delivered. You turn your bike toward home, pedaling through streets that are starting to fill with early commuters. The day is beginning for everyone else. For you, the work is already done. Let that rhythm settle into you now. The quiet streets, the heavy bag getting lighter, the simple satisfaction of a job completed before most people have opened their eyes. You're back in your own bed, your own time. No paper round waiting for you in the morning. No bag to carry. No route to memorize. Just the memory of what it felt like to be young and responsible and part of something larger than yourself. The morning is fading now. The paper boy has finished his round. The streets are filling up with ordinary traffic, And somewhere in a living room not far from here, something important is happening. The television has stopped working. You know what this means. You've seen it before. The screen goes fuzzy, or the picture rolls, or the whole thing just refuses to turn on. And there's only one person who can fix it. The TV repairman is coming. And in a house where television is the main source of entertainment, he might just be the most important visitor of the week. Let me take you into that living room. Let me show you what it felt like when the telly broke and you had to wait for someone to make it right. You're sitting on the sofa. It's 1971 and the television is displaying nothing but static. That hissing, crackling snow that means something's gone wrong inside the box. Your mum has already called the rental company. They're sending someone out. See, the television isn't yours. Not exactly. Most families don't own their televisions outright. They rent them from companies like Radio Rentals or DER or Rumbelows. A few shillings a week and you get a set in your living room. If it breaks, they send someone to fix it. That's the deal. The repairman arrives around 3. You hear the van pull up outside, see the logo on the side through the window. He comes to the door with a toolbox in one hand and a satchel of spare parts over his shoulder. Your mum lets him in and shows him to the patient. "Let's have a look then," he says, kneeling down in front of the set. His name is Brian. He's been coming to your house for years, every time something goes wrong with the telly. He knows where the power socket is without asking, knows to take his shoes off at the door, knows that your mum will offer him tea and biscuits before he leaves. You watch him work. It's like watching a surgeon, sort of. He takes the back off the television, exposing a world of wires and tubes and components you don't understand. The smell of hot electronics wafts out. That particular burnt dust smell that televisions have when they've been on for a while. "Valve's gone," Brian announces after a few minutes of poking around. "Got a spare in the van. Won't take long." He disappears outside, comes back with a small glass tube that doesn't look like much. But when he fits it into place and puts the back on and turns the set on, there it is. Picture, sound, your favourite programme, ready to watch. "Good as new," Brian says. Your mum makes him tea. He drinks it standing in the living room, chatting about the weather, about the football, about Mrs. Patterson's television that needed 3 different parts last week. He knows everyone on his route, has been fixing their tellies for a decade. He's seen your family grow up, seen you go from toddler to teenager, all through the window of house calls for broken televisions. This is what television meant in the 60s and 70s. It wasn't a disposable thing you'd throw away if it stopped working. It was a piece of furniture almost, a presence in the home. And when it broke, you didn't go to a shop and buy a new one. You called someone. You waited. You let a man with a toolbox into your living room and hoped he could work his magic. The repairmen were part engineer, part magician. Televisions back then were complicated, temperamental, full of vacuum tubes that could fail at any moment. The repairman had to know how all of it worked. Had to be able to diagnose problems by sound, by smell, by the particular way the picture rolled or flickered. And they became familiar. That's the thing. The same man coming to your house year after year, watching your kids grow up, drinking your tea, becoming part of the rhythm of family life in some small but real way. Brian finishes his tea, packs up his tools, heads back to the van. He's got 3 more calls this afternoon, 3 more living rooms to visit, 3 more televisions to heal. Tomorrow there'll be more. There's always more. The tellies are always breaking down, but this one's working now. The picture is clear, the sound is crisp, and your family can gather around it again tonight. Watch the news. Watch a comedy. Watch whatever's on, really, because there's only 3 channels and you take what you can get. The van pulls away. The afternoon settles into evening. You're warm in the living room, the television glowing in the corner, the repairman already forgotten until the next time something goes wrong. Let yourself drift now. The paperboy on his bike, the repairman with his toolbox, all those small figures moving through British life, keeping things running, keeping people informed and entertained and connected. Your eyes are heavy. The day has been long, full of workers and jobs and memories from another time. The images are blurring together now, softening at the edges, becoming something more like dreams than stories. One more section to go, one more journey through the Britain that used to be, and then rest, real rest, the kind that comes when all the stories have been told and there's nothing left to do but sleep. The night is deep around you, the house is quiet, and somewhere in the distance, barely audible, you can almost hear the sounds of a world that's gone now, the clink of milk bottles, the tap of a knocker-upper's pole, the call of the rag and bone man echoing down empty streets, all of it fading, all of it slipping away, like dreams, like memories, like the Britain your grandparents knew. Rest now, just for a moment. The final chapter is coming. The night is quiet now, deep and still. You're somewhere between waking and sleeping, that soft place where thoughts move slowly and the world feels far away. Let the last images come. Let them drift through like clouds passing overhead. No need to hold on to them. No need to remember everything. Just let them be. There's a bowling alley somewhere in your memory. 1956 maybe. The crash of pins echoing off the walls. The smell of floor wax and cigarette smoke. And up above, perched on a narrow ledge behind the pins, a boy is waiting. He's maybe 15, 16 at most. His job is simple and dangerous and a little bit mad. When the ball comes down the lane and scatters the pins, he jumps down, clears the fallen ones, sets up the rest, then scrambles back up to his ledge before the next ball comes hurtling toward him. Pin setter, that's what they called him. Human machinery. The boy who did what machines couldn't do yet. He earned a few pennies per game, came home with bruised shins and aching arms and stories about the time he almost didn't get out the way fast enough. The Brunswick automatic pin setter came along in the early 60s, did the job faster, cheaper, without complaint. The boys found other work, other ways to earn their pennies. The ledges above the lanes sat empty. Another small piece of human labour, replaced by gears and motors. Let that image fade now. Let another one take its place. A nightclub, smoky and dark and loud with jazz. 1958. The tables are full of men in suits and women in evening dresses, and moving between them, a tray balanced against her hip, is a girl selling cigarettes. She's young, 20 maybe, 21. Her uniform is tight and a little bit revealing, which is part of the job. The tray hangs from a strap around her neck. It's full of cigarette packs arranged by brand. Lucky Strikes, Woodbines, Senior Service. She knows them all. Knows which customers prefer which brand. Knows how to smile and make small talk and fend off the ones who get too friendly after too many drinks. Cigarette girl. That was the job. Walking through nightclubs and theatres and fancy hotels, selling smokes to people who wanted to feel glamorous. The tips were good if you were charming. The hours were late. The work was harder than it looked. By the 70s, the cigarette girls were mostly gone. Vending machines took over. Attitudes changed. The glamour faded. The trays got put away. The uniforms hung up. The job itself became a memory of a different kind of nightlife. Let that fade too. Let the smoke clear. Let the music grow soft and distant. There's a record shop now, a listening booth in the corner, small, soundproofed, with a turntable and a pair of headphones. You step inside and close the door, and suddenly the world goes quiet. The assistant brings you a record, carefully removes it from its sleeve, sets it on the turntable with practiced hands, drops the needle, and then you're alone with the music, listening to something you might buy, deciding if it's worth your money. The listening booth assistant knew everything, every record in the shop, every artist, every album, every B-side that nobody else cared about. They could recommend things you'd never heard of, could tell you what was coming next, what was worth waiting for, what was overrated despite what the papers said. Cassette tapes killed the listening booths, harder to damage, easier to display. No need for an assistant to handle them so carefully. No need for the little soundproofed rooms where people fell in love with songs they'd never heard before. The music fades. The booth is empty. Another small ritual of discovery. Gone. And here's one more. The oldest one, maybe. The most romantic. A lamplighter. Walking through the streets at dusk with a long pole over his shoulder, stopping at each gas lamp, reaching up, turning the valve, touching the flame to the mantle, and then moving on to the next one, leaving a trail of golden light behind him. By the time your grandparents were born, the lamplighters were already fading. Electric lights were spreading across Britain. Brighter, cheaper, easier to maintain. No one needed a man with a pole anymore. No one needed those evening rounds, that ritual of bringing light to darkening streets. But for a while, for a century or more, the lamplighter was one of the most familiar figures in British life. The man who made the night safe, who pushed back the darkness, one lamp at a time. Who walked the same streets every evening, known by name, greeted by the people heading home from work or stepping out for the night. The electric lights don't need anyone. They turn on automatically, controlled by timers and sensors and systems that run themselves. The streets are brighter now than they ever were, but something is missing. That human figure moving through the dusk, that ritual of fire and light, that daily reminder that the darkness could be held at bay by something as simple as a man doing his job. Let the lamplighter walk on now. Let him fade into the evening. Let all of them fade. The knocker-upper with her bamboo pole, the milkman with his clinking bottles, the rag and bone man calling from his cart, the tea lady pushing her trolley through the office, the typists with their flying fingers, the hello girls at their switchboards, the bus conductor ringing the bell, the coalman with 50 kilograms on his back, the chimney sweep in his battered top hat, the toilet lady in her underground kingdom, the lift attendant in her white gloves, the paper boy on his bicycle, the TV repairman with his box of valves, all of them, all those workers, all those jobs, all those small daily acts of service that held communities together. They're gone now, most of them, replaced by machines and systems and ways of doing things that don't require a human face. Your milk comes from a supermarket, your alarm comes from a phone, your calls connect themselves, your rubbish gets collected by trucks that barely slow down. It's more efficient this way, cheaper, faster. Nobody would go back, not really. Nobody wants to be woken at 2 a.m. by dried peas hitting their window. Nobody wants to wait 3 days for the TV repairman when they could just order a new television online. But something has been lost. You can feel it, can't you? Lying there in the dark, thinking about all those jobs that used to exist. Connection. That's what's been lost. Small daily connections between people who knew each other's names. the milkman who noticed when your bottles weren't collected, the tea lady who knew how you took yours, the bus conductor who remembered your face, the paper boy who checked the windows for signs of life. We've traded those connections for convenience, for speed, for the ability to get what we want without having to talk to anyone at all. And most of the time, that trade feels worth it. Most of the time, we don't even notice what's missing. But sometimes, late at night, when the world is quiet and you're drifting towards sleep, sometimes you can almost hear them. The clink of milk bottles on a doorstep, the rattle of a tea trolley in a corridor, the call of the rag and bone man echoing down an empty street. Rag bone, any old iron, those sounds, those voices, that whole world of workers and jobs and small human kindnesses. It's still there, somewhere, preserved in memories, in photographs, in the stories grandparents tell their grandchildren about the way things used to be. Your grandparents might have known a knocker-upper, might have traded old clothes for goldfish, might have ridden on the back of a milk float on summer mornings, feeling like the luckiest kid in the world. Ask them sometime, if you can, if they're still here to ask. Because those stories won't last forever. Another generation or two and they'll be gone completely. Just words in history books, just strange jobs that sound completely made up. But they were real. All of them. Every job in this story, every worker, every small moment of connection. Real people doing real work in a real Britain that doesn't exist anymore. And now here you are, warm in your bed, safe in your house, the 21st century humming along outside your window, machines doing all the jobs that humans used to do. It's not better or worse, it's just different. The world changes, jobs disappear, new ones appear, people adapt, they always have, they always will. But tonight, just for a little while, you got to go back. You got to feel what it was like. The cold floorboards under your feet at 2 a.m, the weight of a coal sack on your shoulders, the satisfying chunk of a ticket machine, the hum of an electric milk float in the grey dawn light, that world, that Britain, those jobs that sound fake but were completely real. They existed, they mattered, they're worth remembering. And now it's time to let them go. Time to let sleep take you. Time to drift off into dreams of your own, leaving the knocker-uppers and milkmen and rag and bone men behind. Your bed is soft, your blankets are warm. The night is quiet and deep and safe. No one is going to tap on your window in the morning. No one needs to. You've got an alarm or you don't. Either way, you'll wake up when you wake up. The modern world will be waiting for you, with all its conveniences and all its losses. But for now, just rest. Just breathe. Just let yourself sink into the mattress and feel the weight of sleep pressing gently down. The stories are finished. The workers have gone home. The Britain of your grandparents is tucked away in memory where it belongs. And you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Here, now, drifting off. Sleep well. Dream of gentler times. And maybe, if you're lucky, you'll hear them in your dreams. The clink of bottles, the call of the rag and bone man, the tap-tap-tap of a knocker-upper's pole on a window in the dark, all those sounds, all those lives, all those jobs that kept the world turning, one small kindness at a time. Gone now, but not forgotten, never forgotten. Let one more image come before sleep takes you completely. One more glimpse of that vanished world. There's an ice cream van parked on a summer street. 1963. The sun is warm on your face. Children are running from every direction, coins clutched in their sweaty hands. And somewhere inside that van, A man is playing chimes, not recorded chimes, not the electronic jingles you hear today. Real chimes, handheld bells that he rings in a specific pattern. A melody that every child on the street recognizes. That sends them running before they even know they're moving. The chimes operator, that was his job, making music to announce the ice cream. Different vans had different tunes. Different operators developed their own signatures. You could tell which van was coming just by listening. The one with the bells, the one with the little music box, the one where the driver sang through a microphone connected to a speaker on the roof. The electronic chimes came in the 70s, pre-recorded, automatic, the same tune playing from every van, controlled by a switch on the dashboard. No need for an operator anymore, no need for the man with the bells. But the ice cream still tastes the same, or does it? Maybe it tasted better when someone was playing those chimes by hand. Maybe everything tastes better when there's a human being involved, putting their own touch on it, making it special. Hard to say, hard to know. The memory is soft now, blurring at the edges. The chimes are fading into the warm summer air. And here's another one, a cinema, 1955. The lights are dimming and the curtain is opening and the film is about to start, but you don't see what's happening behind the scenes. In a small room above the auditorium, someone is working, threading film through a projector, splicing reels together so the movie plays without interruption, rewinding the previous showing so it's ready for the next one. Film splicer, cinema rewinder, jobs that required steady hands and perfect attention. One mistake and the whole audience would see it. A jump in the picture, a moment of darkness, the illusion broken. Those projection room workers knew their craft, knew how to handle film without scratching it, knew how to repair tears, splice broken sections, keep the magic flowing. They worked against the clock between showings, racing to get everything ready before the next audience took their seats. Digital projection came eventually. No more film, no more splicing, no more skilled hands threading celluloid through complicated machinery. Just files on hard drives, just buttons to push. The cinema still exists, the movies still play. But that particular magic, the magic of film running through a projector, light shining through celluloid, images flickering to life through physical means, that magic is mostly gone now. Another small craft, another small expertise, another small piece of human skill made unnecessary by progress. Let the projection room fade to black. Let the film unspool into memory. Your breathing is slower now, deeper. Your body is heavy against the mattress. The pillow is soft under your head. All those workers, all those jobs, they're settling into the background now, becoming part of the silence, part of the dark. Think about what they had in common. All of them. The knocker-upper and the milkman and the tea lady and the rest. They showed up. That's what they did. They showed up day after day, and they did their jobs, and they knew the people they served. Not in a deep way, maybe, not as friends or family, but in that surface way that still matters, that still makes a difference. The milkman knew your name. The bus conductor knew your face. The tea lady knew how you took your tea. Small pieces of knowledge, small acts of recognition, small confirmations that you existed, that you mattered, that someone out there was paying attention. We don't get that much anymore. We order things online and they arrive without anyone knowing our name. We tap cards on machines and the transaction is complete without a word being spoken. We move through our days surrounded by systems and services, but rarely by people who know us. It's fine. It works. The modern world is comfortable in ways the old world never was. Your bed is softer than any bed your grandparents slept in. Your house is warmer, your food is safer, your life is easier in 1,000 small ways. But sometimes, late at night, you might miss something you never even had. A sense of being known, a sense of being part of a web of small connections that held communities together. The knocker-upper knew which window was yours, knew what time you needed to be awake, knew that you'd press your palm against the glass to show you'd heard. Such a tiny thing, such a tiny moment of connection, a stranger tapping on your window in the dark, and yet, let that thought go now. Let all the thoughts go. The time for thinking is over. The time for sleep has arrived. Your body knows what to do. It's been doing this every night of your life, letting go, sinking down, trusting the darkness to hold you until morning. The sounds of the old Britain are very faint now, almost inaudible. The clink of bottles, the call of the rag and bone man, the tap of the knocker-upper's pole, all of it fading, all of it slipping away. What comes next is rest. Real rest. The kind where dreams might find you, or might not. Either way is fine. Either way is part of the process. Your grandparents knew these jobs. Your great-grandparents lived them. And now you know them too, in your own way. Through stories, through imagination, through this quiet hour of remembering. The chain is unbroken. The memories pass from generation to generation, and even when the last person who actually saw a rag and bone man is gone, the stories will remain, written down, passed along, kept alive by people who understand that the past matters, that these small lives mattered, that every job ever done by every worker who ever lived was part of the great human project of getting through each day and taking care of each other. That's what work is, really. Taking care of each other. The milkman brought you milk. The coalman brought you warmth. The tea lady brought you a moment of rest in the middle of a hard day. All of them, in their own ways, taking care of the people around them. You're being taken care of now, by your bed, your blankets, your pillow, your quiet room, by the night itself, which asks nothing of you except that you rest. So rest. Let the Britain of your grandparents sleep too. Let it settle into history where it belongs, honoured, remembered, but not mourned, not really, because the world moves on, and that's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. New jobs will come, new ways of connecting, new forms of service that we can't even imagine yet. The human need to be useful, to be known, to take care of each other. That need isn't going anywhere. It just changes shape, finds new expressions, adapts to new times. Tomorrow you'll wake up in a world full of those new expressions. People serving each other in ways the knocker-upper never dreamed of. The chain continues. The work goes on. But tonight, you rest. Tonight, you let the stories settle. Tonight you drift off with the sounds of old Britain playing softly in your memory. Tap, tap, tap. The knocker-upper at the window. Time to wake up. No, not yet. Not for hours yet. The knock is just a memory. Just an echo. Just the last fading image of a world that used to be. Sleep now. Sleep deep. Sleep well. And when you wake, remember them. All those workers. All those jobs. All those small acts of service that built the world you live in now. They deserve to be remembered. And now, finally, they can rest too. Good night.